Born Primitive Outdoor is proud to partner with Montana Knife Company, Marsupial Gear, Evolution Outdoors, Sheep Feet, and Capture Gear. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsors. Happy Friday, everyone. Aron Snyder with the Born Primitive Outdoor podcast. I have been back for a few days from the field, getting ready to head back out. I may be bringing the rifle. But my buddy Kurt recently went on a hunt with the crew from the draw, was successful in one day. I'm out here trying to retire. I think I've got 17 days in the field. I haven't gotten shit. Kurt got one on day one. So I've wanted to get these guys on the podcast for a while. This is a perfect time to do it. Kurt just had a successful hunt. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let the crew from the draw kind of take it from here. But yeah, give everybody kind of an idea of what you guys do, kind of how you got going, and then we'll talk about Kurt's hunt a little bit as well.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us there, and I'm excited to be here. I've been following your career for a while, and big fan of a lot of the stuff that you've put your hands on, and so we got to meet for just a moment at the Hunt Expo last year in Salt Lake, and it's finally nice to connect and get to know each other a little better. The draw is, like I said, it's a hunting application service down in southern New Mexico. We live in Las Cruces, and been here and got started with the company back in August of 2018. Prior to that, kind of a little backstory on me and how do you end up opening an application service, I guess. It makes more sense than you would think, I guess, at least to me.
It wasn't your guidance? It wasn't your guidance counselor? Like in school?
Yeah. No, it didn't come up, actually. That's a funny thing to say, because I think if my dad could have handpicked, I don't know that this was it. He passed his hobby on a little bit too aggressively to me, and I made a career out of it. I grew up in central Utah, little teeny town in the middle of nowhere. Ended up in the Army for a number of years. And when that was all said and done, I landed in southern New Mexico. And, New Mexico, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know until I got here, the fact that, like, we're hunting big game 365 days a year down here on public land and doing some really cool stuff. And at the time, I had done some apprenticeship stuff with a taxidermist, and so I jumped in, started a taxidermy studio. That introduced me to a lot of different guides and outfitters, and that evolved into owning a small studio, and I was guiding. There was a number of years where the goal was to kind of have about 200 days a year scheduled on the books, and some hunts went the distance and some were done in a day, but I was hunting a lot. About the time that I wasn't sure how I was going to keep doing that, I just had my first child. God has crazy plans, and he's getting you ready for things that maybe you don't even understand. And unbeknownst to me, I'd been guiding in a lot of camps and for a lot of outfitters that were already booking hunts through Cabela's Outdoor Adventures and their tags program. And I got a phone call, and I got asked to put a resume in. And the next thing you know, to cut that part of it short, I ended up in Sidney, Nebraska, and I was working at headquarters there for Cabela's, doing applications and selling hunts for them. And it was a really good fit. It was a really natural progression from being one guy I was taking care of every 5 days to getting to take care of 5 guys every day, and teach them. I grew up there in central Utah, so application services, it's kind of like that was the birthplace almost, with Garth Carter and George Tolman and Greg Severinsen, all those old time guys. And my dad was quite visionary and got me started at a very young age when I could start with that stuff, which wasn't really happening with a lot of guys. Like, I don't meet guys my age that have 25, 27 points in places like I do. But because of my dad's vision on it, it's created a lot of amazing opportunities throughout the years. And I just have learned, I thought I knew a lot, and then I ended up at Cabela's, and I really got to sharpen my axe. I got to, build a hell of a network between not only hunters, but the outfitter side of things. And I thought I was going to be there forever. Honestly, I really did. Then Bass Pro buys Cabela's, and everything completely changes. And the next thing you know, I'm sitting down in southern New Mexico, where my wife is from, and I can't read a stop sign. So I don't know what I was going to do, but I know a lot about applications. So I did the only thing I knew what to do, and we started the draw. Me and my partner, Jason Browning, opened it up August 15th, I think, of 2018. And it's been just like a lot of startups. Like we had a vision, we had a plan. It was a horrible plan, and and we fell on our face a number of times. But here we are in 2025, and we're headed into our, I guess that would be 7th application season. It's going to kick off before too long, and it's truly been the most humbling, thing that's ever happened to me, and the guys that I've been able to surround myself with, and the other, the team of consultants now. It's nothing short of. I use that word a lot, humbling. It's been a really amazing ride, and God has crazy plans for people, and mine is no different, for sure.
So, I mean, obviously, like you said, God has plans you have no idea for. Did you ever in a million years think that you would be doing this? Was this at any time, or did it hit fast?
Yeah, no, it's the cliche, the hindsight is 2020. I was just in my 20s. I was, just out of the Army. I was doing stuff that I felt like I could do to get my mind right, honestly. And the idea that I could introduce myself to different guys, and if I chose to talk to them about a little bit more about who I was, then I could do that. And if I chose not to, then I didn't have to, and I could just kind of get through my weeks. And we all know now, which seems to be more of a common knowledge, especially in the hunting industry, like hunting and being outdoors and all these things can be such a healing thing for me, or for veterans and things like that. And there wasn't data about that. That wasn't a common knowledge thing. All I knew is that I could isolate really well, and I felt better being up there and doing what I was doing. And then to fast forward that through those years and all these different relationships that I was building throughout the process, to think back that God truly did have that plan and he knew what he was doing seems so apparent to me. But if you'd have told me 2 years before or a year before, all of a sudden I was there in Nebraska with a business card that had Cabela's on the back of it, like I would have laughed at you and been like no, like that's not even in the cards, let alone that's not me. And it is, it's so apparent now in hindsight. And yet it never even crossed my mind. I was doing what I love to do, and I was doing what felt good. And there wasn't really a plan around it. And the idea of like growing up and like, I'm going to be an application consultant, like again, to your point, like it never came up in the high school counselor's office. And if it's coming up in your high school counselor's office, they should probably, like, that's probably not good advice. Yeah. It's a crazy niche to get into. And I don't know how it would be hard for guys to get into, I think, outside of just like a uniqueness like mine. Like I said, my dad, he loved it. He was hunting New Mexico and Arizona and Colorado. And he's doing all these things when not a lot of guys were. And more importantly, he saw enough in me that he's like, oh, he's going to want to do this too. And then to get me started way back when these point systems were still quite immature, way more immature than they are now. It just set a crazy plan, a story in motion for sure.
Well, and kind of going, I mean, everybody generally is seeing things through their own optics, I guess you could say. So, the 30,000 foot view that a do-it-yourself public land hunter just maybe getting started, hunting one state, doing what they know and all they know, that has ambitions or admirations to hunt multiple states, or it is very confusing. And when I say very confusing, I mean, I've been in Wyoming for 3 years and I'm still confused. And so what you're offering, and I mean, there's services, out there that some of them give, subscription advice or whatever else. But the thing is when you go to put in for tags, as you're, financially, able to put in for multiple states and things like that, it is very, very confusing on how to do it. And when everything is due. That's another big one. You always hear those horror stories about, I lost all my points because I, let it slip for a year, or so. I don't know, I think Colorado's 2 years and they all go away. And so what you guys are offering is the ability, if I come to you to say, will you put in for me for these states? You guys do everything for me, and I just give you some advice and you give me recommendations. Is that correct? Is that how you would explain it, or do you want to kind of do a better job?
Yeah, it really is. And you're spot on. I mean, I think that there was a time when we were the guys that do what we do truly were like a much stronger. What's the right word here? Like they were a source of information as much as they were performing a task. I would argue that currently in the way the world is operating and what's available to folks now, we're a much more service-oriented business than we are as much as a source of information. Now, we are constantly learning, we're studying, we're looking at all the different things that exist out there now that they didn't 10 years ago to keep up on it so that we can be an easy button for guys when it comes to being a source of information. But we don't produce information. We leave that to the guys, like Eastman's and Tag Hub and those types of things that exist out there to help guys, the guys that have an ambition to take that next step and start educating themselves further. But when I was growing up, when you were growing up, Aaron, the application season was maybe a 3-month process in the spring, and now we have application deadlines. And my girls that are submitting these applications, there is not a single month of the year that we do not have deadlines that we are submitting applications. And so for anybody that has any sort of life that is demanding of them to keep up with all of that 12 months out of the year and not miss deadlines, and then not only not miss deadlines, but also know units and GMUs and things like that line up with whatever their current goals are. It's like taxes. It's like a full-time thing. And Wyoming's a good example. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, like the big change with the 90-10 on the sheep, moose, goat, bison, and God willing, grizzly, that happened with the non-residents. Like that was a major shift that the state threw and a curveball, and that's not ending. Like these states, as these point systems are getting more mature and they're getting pressure from residents and they're getting pressure from non-residents, these are all still very much experimental processes, if you will, on how to distribute tags in a fair and evenly manner. And so within that, the states are constantly refining what that process looks and feels like. I mean, Colorado just announced a big change coming in 2028 that's going to completely upend what the status quo currently is in that state. And that is what we do. We make it super turnkey, easy, and we talk to guys when they call in, and we have lots of questions, because sometimes it's even stuff that they've never really no one's ever actually forced them into answering a question like, how many times in the next 10 years do you want to go hunting? What species are your highest priority? What weapon is your preferred weapon? What, and all of the why that's important is that if we know all the answers to all these questions, we can do just like anything else in life. We now have our goals, and now we can start back planning. And if you're familiar enough or you're leaning on us to understand the complexities of all these different draw processes to a point that now you can start merging them all together, now you can create a 10-year plan that has all sorts of success throughout that process. And so we do what we completely flip it on its head for what I've found most guys do, which is most guys, they grab a handful of darts, they throw it at the wall every year and pray to God one of them sticks so that now they have a hunt lined up. And it to them, it just happened where if you do it correctly, it's not nearly as luck oriented as it seems at first glance. It can be truly planned out and agenda driven and address things like we talk about here and I've done in seminars in the past, like hunting's such a progressive sport, and what fires guys up right now 10 years from now may have and likely will adjust, and whether that's something a better representation of some certain species or different styles of hunting or different ecosystems and things of that nature, those things that continue keeping us awake at night and the driving force behind it adjust, and applications allow guys, and with some coaching, applications allow guys to address this progression that is inevitable and be ready for it. Because if we haven't addressed it with applications, then the only other way to address that progression is with a checkbook. Like that's it. There's only two ways. And so our goal and what our hope is that we can help guys see that if they leverage the application processes correctly, then it can create a lot of really great opportunities for them throughout a 10-year period. And when that's done, they've got all their goals finished, and they've literally saved tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process of accomplishing all those goals that they had in mind.
Yeah. And so to kind of add, to this, because there's probably, there's going to be people listening from every, I don't you have to say level, but like, every possible scenario, meaning the dude working 9 to 5 construction, let's just go happy to go hunt in Wyoming with his tags he can get in Wyoming. And Wyoming offers, if you're a resident, Wyoming loves residents. But let's say Colorado, you've got good opportunities, but when I say that, you got a lot of opportunities to go hunting, not as many opportunities to actually put an animal on the ground for the more OTC or guaranteed draw units. But you're starting out hunting and you just go by your tag, or you do your thing in your home state. Financially, that expands and you're like, man, I want to hunt whatever, Nevada mule deer, or I want to start putting in for Nevada elk, or I want to whatever. And as your checkbook grows, meaning what you can afford in tags, you have many different obstacles. The first obstacle is understanding the system, which for people listening in that haven't had to dive into multiple states, it's like quantum physics. It's very confusing. You can break the law pretty easy if you're really not. When I say that, people are like, how hard is it to break the law? It can't be that easy. It's different in every state, and this doesn't have as much to do with you guys, but if you're already trying to figure out where to put in, how to put in, what unit to put in for, what has better options, and then obviously legalities, every state's a little bit different. There's a lot in that big ball of snakes. Well, back in the day, you would potentially, guys would, or gals, but usually generally guys would post maybe on a forum, hey, thinking about drawing this unit, putting in for this unit. And that was like kissing your sister, because then people that hunt that unit would get extremely pissed off that you would talk about it publicly, right? So trying to get info from that, unless it's a once in a lifetime tag where it doesn't really, hurt anyone,
sure, 100%.
And so, and then it's daunting, and some people may hinder their hunting options by including myself, by where maybe financially I was able to put in for other states, and I was just like, man, I don't want to jack with this. I'll figure something else out. So if I came to you for as an example, and I'm like, I have about $2,800 extra I've saved, for tags, or that I can put aside. And I'm just trying to keep this as simple as possible, because most of the tags you're probably not going to draw. And I come to you and I'm like, hey, here's my budget. I want to start putting in for tags. This is what I know I can afford for the next few years. Then this is my home state. Then you can give them advice on, this is what I would put in for. These are the units that have done well. These are the units that are going to take you 10 to 15 years. These are units that are going to take you 3 to 4. I mean, that's what you do in a nutshell. I mean, you are basically
all day, every day. Right. Yeah, 100%. And then it goes beyond that as well. And I mean, for we call it backup plans, between other states and applications, and or there are wrinkles, if you will, that are in these moments where we don't end up drawing a tag, or we choose not to draw a tag because we're waiting on something else or whatever. And at that point, we can help guys navigate other opportunities, be it over the counter DIY, all the way to if you just want to. I mean, we have a saying here: if you want to throw a dart at a world map and you hit dirt, like, we can help you get there and go and do all of what it's going to need, and whether that's domestically or internationally. So that kind of drifts into a whole other side of the company, but on the application side of things, yes. Like and I would also say another thing that we kind of say here often is we're as involved as folks would like us to be in all of it, really. Like, if we have a number of guys that they have all of their own plans. They really do. And they're guys that study constantly, and they're hunting constantly, and they have great networks of friends and relationships. And all they really need help with is simply making sure they don't miss the deadline. They're very proactive on what we're applying for, and the units and all of those types of things. We get very detailed notes from them about that stuff, and all we're there is just to make sure in their busy life that they don't miss the deadline. And we have, on the complete opposite side of that, net new guys who truly have zero understanding of any of it. They live in the Midwest or back east, and they go buy a half a dozen whitetail tags a year, and that's what they do. And it's very simple. And so anything that involves a hoop that needs to be jumped through is very intimidating. And we have everything in between that. I mean, we'll have the guy that he'll call and be like, I mean, Lawrence, one of our consultants, just literally asked me today. He's like, hey, I just had a guy call in. He has 19 deer points and 19 elk points in Colorado. He knows how to apply. He knows how to not miss the deadline. He has no idea what to do with them now. And there's so much at stake. We've all been there. Like that, burning points is one of the higher anxiety moments that we all experience in the hunting space if you play this game very much at all, and you're not going to get those 20 years back. So that's a whole nother group that ends up on the phone with us, and we're as involved as they would like. I'll even have guys go in, we'll put the whole plan together, and at the end we're like, so are we doing the application, or are you doing it? And they're like, oh, no, I've done the application for 20 years. I'm fine. I just needed to know what our plan was. And it's fine. Like, we're as involved as guys want us to be at any step of the process.
Yeah, and I'm speaking from the guy that should be and should have been using, since I've been financially stable enough, I'm only bringing me up to put people back into the growing up as a poor redneck and not maybe the blueprint of my initial years stayed with me where they shouldn't have, and it's hurt my hunting possibilities. And when I say that, when you start out hunting with your dad or uncle or whatever else, and you go and you buy an over-the-counter tag and you do your thing, and your hunting obsession grows, but it's taken a little while to get financially stable to go hunt other states, and then you go and try to grab the hunting synopsis or whatever you want to call it and read through it and figure out, a lot of guys are intimidated by that, lazy, whatever, or gals. And then they end up losing, very good hunting opportunities, which, this has been me. Now I've been lucky enough to know different people in Canada and things like that. But like this year's a prime example for me. I had business stuff, life stuff going on, and I didn't start hunting this fall. I didn't end up hunting antelope. I didn't hunt high country mule deer. I've been hunting elk where I've been getting my ass kicked. But, you can start hunting with a moderate budget August 15th pretty easily, if not earlier, if you look at Nevada. And so what I guess is I'm rambling on. If you're someone that has, let's say you're 26 years old, you're making 60 to 70 grand a year, but you can set aside $2,000 to $3,000 for the year to put in for tax. My recommendation, and then I want you guys to think if I'm stupid, tell me, but my recommendation for that is very simple. If you have the time and you can figure it out on your own, great. I have no issue with that. But if you can afford a little extra money and put it into the hands of someone like you or what your crew is doing, you're not just getting someone putting in for the tags for you. You're getting a reminder when to put them in, and also recommendations on what you're putting in for as well. Meaning it is extremely difficult if you're going to try to hunt 3 states with no help, like most people are just going to get help off the internet to know what tags to put in for, when to put in for them. And when I say what tags, what unit to put in for. Should I put in for this unit? Is this unit worthwhile to wait? Should I wait? If I wait 7 years, can we schedule it for other hunts to subside or take it their place until I draw that tag? And it is confusing as shit. And I'm going to let you take it from here because I'm not making as good a sense of it. But the easiest way to say is if I'm not going to draw unit 4032, so I'm not giving away anything. Like I'm not going to draw unit 4000B for 10 years at best. Well, what do I do for the next 10 years, right? You guys can help and say, hey, you can draw this, and this.
100%. And you're exactly right. I mean, it goes a couple of different ways in that same thought process that you're having there, right? Like the left to their own accord, like this happens. Like, and now there's some big price increases happening in Utah this coming application season, but for a long time, Utah definitely, we call it one of the big 3: Utah, Nevada, Arizona, where it has a very, very strong track record of producing exceptional deer, exceptional elk. And as far as price point was concerned, I mean, up until recently, it was like $65 for a hunting license instead of 156 in Nevada and 160 in Arizona, and then it was only $10 for an application fee instead of 15 in Arizona and 14 in Nevada. And so price point wise, it made like great sense, and guys did this. We'd meet guys like 3, 4, 5 years worth of points in Utah, and then they would kind of hit the same point that this guy I mentioned earlier did at 19 years. He's like, oh, what can I do with all of this stuff? And the unfortunate reality, because now he's getting some consulting done, is that it unfortunately in Utah, it doesn't matter. You are less than 1% chance of drawing, and you're probably going to be less than 1% in most, even subpar units for another decade, maybe longer. But it was appealing because it was kind of cheap upfront cost. And so more importantly is having someone from the front end of that to kind of help you navigate that if we're going to spend a single dollar anywhere, let's ensure that dollar also lines up with our goals. And a lot of times for many guys, I mean, like if you become like me, it's horrible. Like I'm completely immature and reckless about how much stuff I apply for. And if my wife ever finds out really how hard I play the game, she's going to make me take the family on a big vacation, another big vacation every year. But with good advice, you can create opportunities much sooner than guys realize, to include lots of stuff that exists that's really more of just a hoop that you're jumping through that literally translates into a hunt immediately. And we don't get trapped in this deal where you're 10 years deep and you're not even any closer. You're not even 1% closer than you were the day you started to your goal. And as well as adding to another point you were making is when it is time to burn those points, having somebody who's very versed and studied on all of this type of stuff to tell you, okay, with your X number of points you currently have, these options are available to you. You could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. And as importantly as those current options, it's really nice to know that, hey, by the way, if you wait 1 or 2 more years, this other, and it could be a level up type of opportunity is right around the corner for you, and or as mature as many of these point systems are, and something we run into more often all the time is that, hey, the level up that you're looking for, well, that level up at least 10 more years. So you have these that are available now, but if we're looking for a level up, just so we're on the same page, and that changes guys' minds. Of course it does, right? Oh, it's like, well, in that case, I am going to pick one of these that's available right now because I'm not willing to wait for, and sometimes the level up isn't even that much greater. So we call it no man's land. You end up in these places with your point statuses because you just did, and you didn't have any, coaching, if you will, along the way, that it's like, man, I have more than I need for stuff that I'm not super fired up about, but I'm behind a point curve and I'm not really gaining ground on the one that I really set out for from the beginning. And having somebody level set with you through those processes, at least, that's the whole idea, is to educate, so that now folks can make their own decisions. Like it's impossible to make a great decision very often if you don't have all of the information, and that's what we exist for, is to educate as thoroughly as we can, on whatever topic we happen to be talking about, so that when folks do choose to spend any money at all or burn points or whatever it is they're going to do, they're doing it with a lot more context, so that they can make a better decision based on who they are and what their goals are.
Right. And I think, adding to that a little bit, if this sounds, as we're, people are listening, overwhelming, and it is, obviously that's why, you guys are there to help people, is what my suggestion would be, if you have a moderate budget, is one, to me, first, pick your species. Are you a mule deer guy? Are you an elk guy or gal, right? Or if that's what you want to focus on, limited budget, then figure out what you want to do. Now, if you want to try mule deer in one state, I get it, but I would say inherently you're generally an elk guy or a deer guy. And when I say that,
100%.
Yeah, more than most often. So that would be my first thing is, go to the draw and say, all right, look, I don't have a ton of money, but I love hunting mule deer. I'm fit. I like the high country mule deer stuff more than anything, but I'm open for, whatever. And I'm young. I'm 24. I want to start putting in for these different tags. Give me some advice. This is the money I've got. And because, when you talked about la la land, like you're in no man's land, there's nothing worse than a guy calling me with 14 mule deer points in Colorado wanting to hunt archery, because you've got 10 more than you probably need, right? Like there, you have.
Dude, we literally just had this conversation with a guy that called with 19 points. He wants 19. He wants those 19 deer points. He's very rigidly. He's an adamant bow hunter, and he wants those 19 deer points to equate into this like amazing mule deer experience with his bow. And I mean, whether it's the hardest tag in the state, like a 201 archery deer, or even a 55, like he's got almost twice as many points that he needs for the hardest tags to draw in the state. And yet, unfortunately for him, there's two kind of things happening right now. He needs to feel like the 20 years that he's invested matters, and yet mule deer and the units that he needs to be hunting to shoot a giant mule deer only take like 2 points. Yeah, and people don't, and the elk is worse. Like, I literally just told Lawrence, I'm like, I don't know. He doesn't have enough for 40, which is kind of usually it used to be kind of a under the radar archery elk, comparing it to 61 or 10 or 201 or any of those. 40 had good bulls, and it wasn't near as hard to draw. It took 27 points now to draw that tag. And I'm like, he's truly in no man's land. And yet the real goal is he just wants to shoot a big bull. But he also needs to understand, or he wants to feel like the 20-year of investment that he put into something equated into a goal being accomplished. And it's no man's land is a nightmare. It's why we encourage guys to burn points maybe more often than than people would expect. The whole goal is to not donate money for 2 decades to some state. It's to hunt and to have experiences and to go participate in the thing that you love, not just mindlessly donate money to these states for years and years. And that's coming from a guy, like I said, I've got 27 points in some places. I like the sheep and the moose and the goat. That's like a whole other, that's just gambling for hunting at this point. And it's cool that states keep track of how many times they've told you no, and it becomes this little badge of honor and whatever nonsense that is. But the deer and the elk and the antelope, I can tell you this, Aron, like I'll tell you something that we tell a lot of guys when they call in, and it's the truth. Like the guy you're talking about, right? The 26, 27-year-old kid who's just itching. He's got to get out and he's got to do something. I would argue from a lot of these conversations, sometimes there is a overall species that's a higher priority than the others. And it's a specific question that we ask everybody that we that calls in as we're onboarding them in the process. A very specific question we ask them. But some of these guys, they just want to experience Western hunting, and right now, we're leading up to a deadline that's just over a month away in Wyoming, and for $127.11, you can build points for deer and elk and antelope. And if you're truly going to go DIY, I don't know that I would be ultra excited about somebody burning those points DIY until another year or 2, 3 points. There starts to be some stuff that looks appealing. There's enough ground to hunt. There's enough enough chance for success that it starts to be viable. The elk's a little bit more of a 4 or 5 year kind of plan to put in place right now. But that whether it's a 22-year-old kid or a 26-year-old kid, if before the end of this October he was to spend that $127.11 and build those points, he's now started on a path that at least, and it could be more if he wants, but at least 3 times in the next 10 years. But from the time he's 25 to 35 years old, that's 3 hunts coming down the pipeline that have hard finish lines associated with them. Like there's not a luck-driven type of process. And it could be, especially if he's interested in going outfitted, it could be as early as next year. And he can roll the dice on the elk in January and wait and see if by chance he lucks into something sooner than later, and then have some backup plans. And we lean on those deer and antelope applications constantly as backup plans, that even if you don't have some high priority to hunt Wyoming as a bucket list destination necessarily, the fact that they don't require that application for deer and antelope until the end of May every year allows you to maybe be a little more of a risk taker in some other applications and some other opportunities throughout that application season. And yet, if the smoke clears, it's the end of May, instead of kind of looking for what's left, which is not a good place in any walk of life to be, you could plug and play on a better than average opportunity on the deer and the antelope. And maybe it isn't your top priority, but it's better than scrambling for what's left in some sort of elk opportunity more than not. And and it plays into, like, I've talked about this before, like hunters have this desire, a lot of them do, that we were just built different. Like, we want to out hunt our peers. Like, nobody wants to come off of a hunt feeling like they got out hunted, or if they would have tried harder or anything. It's kind of like a leave it all on the table, and whatever that is for everyone is different, but they have that in their mind. And if you're constantly looking at over-the-counter options as your means to go hunting, then you're missing out on a way to kind of out hunt and take one step further, because these states limit the number of people per unit in a lot of these draw processes. So it's one more way to take one step further than your peers when it's your turn to go, and it just lends itself to that same mentality that I'm going to go harder and deeper and stronger and everything. Well, if all you're doing is hunting over-the-counter type opportunities, when you're doing that, then you're missing out on a chance that could really take that same effort and drop it into an area that's a limited entry or limited quota type area, and the results typically are a lot better. Lots better.
I'm going to rewind a little bit, and I should be taking notes because my memory's screwed. So earlier when we were talking about, before we started this kind of rant, you had mentioned 201, 10 Colorado limited entry elk units that take a lot of points to draw.
Sure. Yep.
The one thing that I want to make sure, I'm going to say this with some tongue in cheek, but I would rather stick a hot poker up my ass than hunt 2 and 201 as far as the vibe. Now, does that mean I wouldn't go 100%. Hunt 2 or 2? Yeah. I would. It's not.
I'm 100% with you. Like, here's a fallacy, Aaron. That as mature as these point systems, it's all. When we were growing up, it was like, if we just play the game and we wait our turn, we're going to get to hunt the best places in the state, right? Like, that was the whole concept that we were sold as the point systems kind of got off the ground. And nowadays, and we talk about this a lot with clients, like, the very best hunting isn't necessarily the hardest places to draw. The hardest places to draw in a lot of these states typically is a reflection of the amount of public land that's available and the physicality that is going to be required to be successful in those areas. So if it's a low physicality area with a ton of public land and it has anything that resembles a track record for above average age class animals, that is a perfect storm for a really, really hard tag to draw, but it has nothing to do with whether or not it's the best.
Well, and
that's really changed in the last 10 years.
Let's talk about the best and rewind to the elk so people understand when I say 2 or 201 or 10. And it's, when I say that, I've never hunted any of those. I've just been there, right? I've helped, whatever. What kind of hunter, what experience do you want? And when I say experience, I don't mean, obviously you want the experience of a dead elk at your feet, but I mean, are you a wilderness hunter? Are you a backpack hunter? Are you a spike in for a couple of days and come back? Or are you somebody that wants to hunt pinyon junipers and water holes, right? 2 and 201 and 10 and some of those different areas is not my vibe. And when I say that, are you a boob guy? Or are you a butt guy, right? Like,
sure,
somebody with the nicest ass in the world does not appeal to me. I love boobs, right? That's my thing, right? So I want a backpack hunt. Like, I want to get in the thick of things. And so 2, 201 and 10 are not as conducive to that 60, what is the other one? 61, you're hunting, is it 62?
61, you're getting up on the Onca Padre, and a little more time, so you've got some acids and some dark timber and some of that. in the general rule, it's not, I wouldn't classify that as an alpine. Yeah, wilderness or alpine type. It's a good plateau, is what it is.
Hold on, you're breaking up just a little bit, and I want to make sure people are, are hearing you with what you're saying. With 60, I think it's 61. That's more oak brush, and I mean, there's a lot of elk there, but that is not the atypical. When I say that, it's not what I think some people would have in their brain as elk habitat in some areas. And I say that when you watch Primo's videos from birth, and you've got aspen and timbers, and he's talking about Jeremiah Johnson, and there's all these leaves changing and shit. That is not the vibe you get from some of these units, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And that's important.
Yeah. It brings up a really good point. I mean, I've said this for a long time. Like elk hunting is, as we are on the topic, but to me, there's nothing more broad in all of the North American 29 than elk hunting. When a guy calls in and they ask, "I want to go elk hunting," like, to me, that is such a that we're tip of the iceberg. Fair enough, we've identified a species, but if you want to go on a 9-day horseback ride up in the Bob Marshall right now and see some of the most amazing places that God's ever created, and you're going to catch more cutthroat trout on a fly rod than you ever dreamed, and you're going to have an elk tag in your pocket, and you're going to sleep in a leaky wall tent and eat cardboard for 9 days, but you're never going to see an elk. Like, you'll have an elk tag in your pocket and a gun or a bow, but you're probably not going to see an elk, or very, very few at best. Like, that's out there, and you could do that. And if you want to go to some of the nicest lodges built in the Western United States, and it's just like overwhelming when you walk in and you want to pop a $300 bottle of scotch every night, like, that exists too. And all of them are elk hunting, but there is there is not a larger spectrum in my mind than when somebody says, "I want to go elk hunting." Like, well, there's at least 20 more questions that need to be asked to truly understand that individual's goal. And when they're sitting in bed and they're losing sleep and they're dreaming about this stuff, like, what is it that you're like, what experience and what kind of terrain and what kind of weapon and what kind of time of year and all these different variables. Because honestly, Aaron, if we're worth two shits as a consultant, like, kind of regardless of whatever all those answers end up being, we would know the destination, and if there is an ask for assistance while they're there, someone that their day in and day out hunt that they do, and they have a long, good track record offering that type of experience. Like, then that's what makes us good consultants is knowing the area that is that fits with this dream that they've got. And then if there is an ask for an outfitter, that they're day in and day out, because, that happens on the Gila. Like, New Mexico is really famous for this, in my opinion. Like, you'll call an outfitter and because there isn't permits in New Mexico, like forest permits, the same as there is in like Colorado and camp permits in Wyoming and it's even more rigid in Idaho. Like, like almost anybody can hunt anywhere. It's not exactly that, but it's close to that in New Mexico. So you'll call an outfitter and you're like, I drew this elk tag and I want to go elk hunting with you. And your pictures on Instagram are great. And the guy's like, oh, perfect. We'd love to get you going. He's like, well, tell me about your hunt. And he's like, well, we stay in camping trailers, out on the mountain, and we cruise around in trucks and we're really good at it. And the guy's like, oh, I was really wanting a lodge-based hunt. And the outfitter, he says, well, I know an Airbnb. I got a place that we could get set up more in a lodge kind of feel. And the guy's like, and I was really hoping we could have horses to ride into some of these deeper areas. And the outfitter, he says, because a lot of them are young and they don't know, they're not smart enough to say no to this stuff. They just say yes. And the whole thing is that outfitter, he's saying yes as many times as he can to the client until the client says yes back to him. That's the whole nature of that back and forth that happens all the time in New Mexico. And then the guy goes on the hunt and it sucks. and he comes back and he writes a big thing on social media, and he's like, "This guy sucks." And the truth be told is, yeah, the guy shouldn't have said yes. He should have said no. I hunt out of camping trailers wherever I find the elk, and we ride around in trucks because we're going to cover a ton of ground. And he should have. He's not guiltless. The outfitter should have said no, but he didn't. And yet, if the guy would have just hunted out of the camping trailer in the truck, I think that his experience more often than not would have been a lot better than if he pulled that outfitter. But as consultants, if you were dreaming of a lodge-based hunt with horseback, well, let's get you with a guy that every single week of the year, he is based out of a lodge and hunts off horses, and he's damn good at it. And that's the whole point of having kind of like, say, a consultant or a coach through a lot of these processes is that those are the fine details that unfortunately get lost in a lot of these conversations, and having a third party that can help navigate some of these complexities that we all run into. Because, like say, circling back, elk hunting particularly couldn't be more broad. Like it's everything you can imagine on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I want to rewind just a little bit to unravel the bag of snakes we're talking about now to make sure people 100% understand. And this would be my advice to anybody listening if they're going to call you, is first, budget, easy enough. 2, species, both of those are equally important. What do you get off on, right? Next, what type of hunt? So if it's a type of hunt, and I think people will get stuck in their brain, and I get it, but you've got different influencer people that are, no one works harder than me, or you know what, you want to kill shit. So leave that out. It's your hunt. Don't worry about what other people say. So if you want to do a wilderness hunt, say, look, you know what, I can backpack in. I'm not opposed to getting dropped off. I need a guide. I don't need a guide. I need, those are the things that are important. So if I called you, I would first say, man, I'm fit. I got a lot of experience all over the world. I don't mind backpacking. I don't, I'm good for whatever, but I don't want the cabin vibe. I want to go out. I'm fine in a bivvy. I'm fine in a one-man tent. And I don't have the highest standards. And I'm speaking for me because I don't. I just want a good experience and a decent bull. Lay me out, right? That I think from there, you can take that and make miracles happen in multiple different places. And it may not,
exactly right.
And
it's part of the initial consultation. I love that you're saying this because I think we catch guys off guard sometimes because, I mean, seriously, Aaron, it's like a 4-page document that we've, I've been doing this for 12 years now, and it's very refined over that amount of time of 4 pages worth of questions that are asking all the exact same stuff you're saying, because that if we're truly going to, again, I go back to the we have to justify the cost, and we have to see where the money, how the money is bringing value to the equation. And we don't want to spend a single dollar in one place or the other until we have such a clear picture of what these goals are, at least to start with. Obviously 12 years into this, I have some guys that we have progressed and gone down all sorts of different rabbit holes. I've got guys that are mentoring their tags and burning points to mentor tags to kids in their that they didn't even have when they first started working with me. And I've got guys that what fires them up and what their dreams are have completely evolved over that. But those initial, to get started and go, like you're exactly right. Those are the questions that they should be thinking about, because we're going to ask those questions, and we're going to get a really clear picture of what's keeping guys up at night. What is it that they're dreaming of while they're setting at whatever job they're doing. And then once we have that information, let's build a real viable plan to actually build a plan around that goal and turn it from a dream into a goal and then into reality.
And we'll kind of slide into Kurt, my partner in crime. He used you guys, just killed a bull, and we'll kind of slide into that because it fits. Because Kurt was really wanting to beat the shit out of himself on like what I'm doing now. And I'm like, dude, don't punch a gift horse in the mouth, dude. Like, believe me, at the end of the year, I was wishing you know what I mean? Because I've been lucky enough to do all kinds of different hunts. And so when, as you're listening to both of us like babble on here, the most important thing to me is what is going to make you happy, not who, when I say this, meaning like, if you're not a hardcore backpack hunter person, like who gives a shit, right? What is important to you? And that with the money and everything else. And the next thing is quality, right? Is the experience more important than the size? And when I say the experience, you can go into units that are 60% bull to cow ratio. I'm not going to mention any because I don't want to get yelled at by people that hunt. And when I say that, meaning there are 60% bulls compared to cows. There's going to be lots of screaming. The groups are going to be smaller, meaning 3 to 5, maybe 6 to 8 cows per bull. And quality may be down. When I say quality, 280 to 310. That may be what with an occasional giant. There's always going to be a big one. But I'm going to tell you, like, dude, that's what I want. I want elk screaming in my face. I don't give a shit if it's a raghorn, a 300-inch bull. I just want to experience that circle of life and see. I want to hear elk screaming. I want them in my face. I don't have high standards. That is my standard. I want to have that. Well, that's important. That's fucking really important. And I deal with this shit as much as you guys do with people asking me. They're like, you know what, man, I'm not looking for a giant. I just want a 300-inch bull. And I'm like, you know what? I wanted a 12-inch penis. I didn't get it. That's a big ask unless you have a ton of points or money, right? And those things are important. One, to have realistic expectations. The next thing is, again, that you get what you want out of the services you're paying for and out of the money you're spending. And that's the same with mule deer. Like, you could tell me, hey, you're going to go in and this specific unit, you're going to have lots of opportunities for mule deer, whatever, but you leave out the fact that I'm hunting sagebrush. Then I show up and I'm like, well, I wanted to be above tree line. Well, that's a big difference. Right. Sagebrush hunting for me, stab me in the eyeball, right? I don't like it. Sorry, go ahead.
Nope. You're exactly right. Like, those are those minute details. And then for a lot of guys, again, going back all the way to the very beginning of the conversation, like it's truly more of a service oriented business, like being that, we become the easy button, that as long as that's been, expressed, and we document all of the phone calls and all these details and all these notes about each guy and they get to see those notes and all of that type of stuff. It's so that it's to keep those minor details that make a huge difference to lots of guys. And some of it comes on the fly in all transparency, right? Like, I had this will be a great. Had a gentleman that was he wanted a chance at a really big bull. That was that was the most expressed portion of his. He's like, there wasn't much of other agenda than I want a big bull at the time. And he's a really great guy. He's from Idaho, and he ended up drawing the same tag that Kurt drew, but a rifle tag. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And he went out there and he shot a really great big bull while he was there. And he came off of it and told me, that was great. I'm super excited about it. I have no complaints. Everything was great. But moving forward, now that I've kind of done that, put very clear notes about only like big mountain stuff. Like, this guy is very much in line with what you're saying. He doesn't like, it was neat to kill a great big bull, but it didn't scratch the itch quite like maybe he thought it would when the goal was so simplistic as kill a big bull. And now we've adjusted accordingly, and he's drawn the 16B in the Gila but now, and he's done some other stuff in Wyoming where you're way off the grid, and he has yet to kill a bull even within probably 50 inches of the bull that he killed in New Mexico. But I can tell you with a
probably
certainty,
happier.
Those bulls in those areas mean a lot more to him. They really do. And that's different for everybody. everybody ends up, and so they sometimes, if you're especially from the Midwest or and I say he's from Idaho, he just barely moved to Idaho. He lived in eastern Kansas for a long time. I do think that there's plenty of time, and it's fine that you don't know what you like just yet. Like you haven't been around enough to come to some final conclusion, but you have to start somewhere. And most guys, when they're dreaming about these things, have something in their mind's eye. You know what I mean? They have some television show, they have some magazine article or a trophy photo or something that they saw that for whatever reason that's what they associate with. And we. The questions are pretty. I mean, it's a very normal onboarding for us, and this is good for your listeners because they should be prepared. Like it's typically an hour, at least an hour conversation, because I don't know how we would ever know enough
as it should
start
be
making decisions.
Yeah, as it should be. And this is and I'm getting a little bit excited here, and I say that I don't offer the services you do because I don't charge anything, and people message me all the time. First time elk hunting, what should I expect? Or what, what? And I'm like, learn and have fun, right? Like there's not, if you go into it saying I want a 300-inch bull, you have failed, right? When I say you're probably going to fail if you're coming from Pickett, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, whatever, and you're coming to hunt OTC general type of stuff. And because you get these things stuck in your mind, just like watching whoever your person you watch or people that you watch, like the backpack hunting thing. I don't know how many people go out with these great, they have these, I don't want to say false hope, but this idea that they're going to never have done it, do a 14-day backpack hunt, which is a lot for even me, and go out west, do a 14-day backpack hunt, and on day 2 are sucking their thumb, they miss mom, right? Not everybody's built to backpack hunt. And so it's very important to take that hour to know, 1, you have no idea what you want, 2, you have a decent idea, or you're kind of feeling it out. And if you're going to be spending all this money, while it is important to put an animal on the ground, what built up to that you will find is even more important. Yeah, of course you want an animal on the ground, otherwise you might as well just be a hiker. But if you said, Aron, you can shoot a 400-inch bull in pinyon junipers, or you can shoot a 340 bull on a wilderness hunt, people may think I'm crazy, but I promise you I can be put to the test. My ass is going in the wilderness. I fucking hate hunting pinyon juniper desert country. It's just not my thing. Now, it was given to me. I'm going, right? I'm not going to complain. I'm just saying if I have the choice, 340 or I say 400, that might be a stretch. I might go hunt pinyon junipers for a 400-inch bull, but you get my drift, right? But in reality, let's just say 340 and 300.
Just once, though. We're only going to do it once for the 400, and then we're going back.
Well, and that's like with Kurt. When Kurt said he drew this tag and he was asking, I'm like, dude, I don't know shit about New Mexico, right? And he is, and Kurt's ready to go camping, and because Kurt's a tough little dude, or big dude. Kurt's tough dude. Yeah. And Kurt wants to suffer. And so Kurt messages me. He's like, man, I don't know if this hunt's going to be what I'm thinking, whatever. And I'm like, look, man, take from somebody who's gotten their dick kicked in for 40 plus years. Dude, take it as a gift. Like, dude, like go and have fun, because you may never get this opportunity again. And he had a great, time. But Kurt also, he's been hunting, but not animals, right? And so Kurt, this is new to him to a certain degree. And I'm like, dude, go and have fun. Believe me, it will be awesome. Like, you will have a good time. But in his brain, because Kurt likes to suffer, right? And so I'm like, Kurt, right, you go fucking suffer every year. Suffering is easy. Successful elk hunting is not, right? Suffering, you can do that.
Well, and as guys are getting started, this is and I think Kurt, plays right into this. Like wherever it is or however it happens, like getting, the monkey off your back, if you will, and it builds momentum and having opportunities, maybe not the grind you were looking for, this or that, but just the act of actually successfully harvesting animals, which is particularly archery equipment, like that's worse than golf. Like that takes so much time to perfect and be very talented at that. And so every chance you get to practice that moment and be successful with it is hard earned, kind of no matter where it comes from. But yeah, it's he's progressing along. He's got a good mentor in you, in you getting him there, and he's obviously got ice cold blood running through his veins that helps that some of us don't exactly.
And Kurt, like I had explained to him, like, you know, the hunt that I'm doing, you know, now, because and I'm not casting shade or any, like, I just want everybody to be happy. But you see on social, you know, there's certain places, you know, the Hill Ranch, the San Carlos, I can keep listing, you know, tags that are what, 20, 40 to up to 80 grand. I mean, it's very expensive to hunt some of these different areas. There's nothing wrong with hunting those, but I think some people get an idea in their mind when they see certain people killing these animals that it's maybe a wilderness hunt or, you know, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with any of it. And again, this is what's important. And what I explained to Kurt is, Kurt, I can go kick the shit out of you any year. Those are the easy hunts. I mean, they're not easy, but I mean, those are, you know, like you know, poverty is easily passed on, but wealth is easily earned. I said that backwards, but you get the idea. Wealth, poverty is inherited and it sticks to you. But wealth is easily squandered. Well, public land is easy and will pass to generation after generation. Hunting, high point units and everything else, those are hard to come by. And so when somebody has like let's say, and this, I'm going to use mule deer, like somebody has 14 points in Colorado and they're a bow hunter, I'm honestly strongly encouraging them to go for a high country buck tag with a gun, because you can go get your ass kicked with 1 to 2 points anytime in Colorado. A high country buck tag, you cannot. And I'm rambling on now, so I'll shut up for a sec. Go ahead.
No, it's funny. That's exactly the same advice I gave Lawrence, our other consultant, with this gentleman we've mentioned a time or two in here. I was like, dude, he needs to go. He needs to pick a rifle hunt. He has so many top shelf options with that many points, and then he could literally turn right back around and go archery hunting soon, you know, without the 19 points, but at least he'll have got kind of a higher value for the investment that he's made. And then get back to your archery stuff. Fair enough. Like, but it is, it's the truth. But no, Kurt that was a really cool one. Jared here, I haven't said a whole lot. He's been listening the whole time, you know. That was a really cool thing. We were really,
hey, hold on one sec. You're breaking up, and I want to make sure that we, you know, it's crisp and clear. So, and I'll put context into this. Kurt Gamache is my partner in crime, you know, at BP. He does product development. He, his military career is very distinguished, and he's a great human being in general. But he's been gone a lot from 20 years of GWAT and hasn't hunted that much. And so Kurt starting to hunt, and everything he does for Kurt has to be very, very difficult, right? Like, he's just that guy. But Kurt used you guys, you know, this year. He actually drew some stuff in Wyoming as well. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go. And Kurt drew a very good tag in New Mexico. And again, Kurt's green, right? Like, this is all new for Kurt. So I'm going to let you guys take it from there.
No, it was a really cool deal. You know, Jared and I work with a gentleman. His name's James Rivera, and James has got some amazing properties in kind of northeast New Mexico. And James is a hell of a human being, for sure. And he approached us this last year, and he's like, "Hey guys, I want to do an elk hunt for a veteran. You know, what do you think? What do you know?" And I've got to know Kurt the last few years. I met Kurt at the Range Valley Ranch. I was up there speaking in Utah at an event that me and Kurt met each other up with Born. He was there representing Born Primitive, and then Donnie Edwards and the Best Defense Foundation, and I've done a few things with them. Went to Normandy last year with those guys, and I've got to know Bear, and I got to know Kurt, and I know Kurt is really kind of just dipping his toe in, but he's excited about it. And when James approached us and said, "Hey, do you have somebody?" I'm like, "Absolutely! Like, I've got the guy." And in truth be told, like, obviously we love Born Primitive down here. I really enjoy my relationship with Bear, and we've got to know each other the last time, but this really didn't have anything to do with that, right? Like, it was, we do a lot of, I hate even saying this on a podcast because I just assume we don't, on purpose, we don't advertise this or exploit it or anything, but I'm a veteran. One of our other guys, Casey's a veteran. Jason, the other owner, his dad's a Navy veteran, and we try to stay extremely active and proactive in helping guys in the little ways that we can, and I wanted this for Kurt really bad. So we kind of had a backup plan if the draw process didn't work out, but by the grace of God, honestly, like, it's an amazing story in and of itself. Like, he drew this tag, and so we have a great human in James Rivera. He came to us. I was like, this is like, we got to do this for Kurt, and then he draws the tag, and we kind of put I'll tell you the funny part is I want to say a loose plan. It wasn't necessarily a loose plan. It was just that, like, I know James and we work a lot with James, and I'm like, this is turnkey. Like, this is too good to be true. Like, this is a kick-ass elk hunt that is all coming together. And so as that was all coming together, James and Jared, who's here with me on the podcast, worked together very closely, and it made more sense that for Jared to go up there, and he does a lot up in that part of the state with James. And I'll kind of let Jared tell you what happened as Kurt arrived and they started and they started hunting. So yeah, what did happen?
Oh man, Kurt's a cool dude. He's super fun to be around. And he showed up to camp, and we actually, me and James had gone out that day because Kurt wasn't going to show up to camp till about 7:00 in the afternoon, sun already setting. And so me and James were like, well, let's get out early and let's go see if we can turn up some bulls and just kind of see what's around. And so we got up and took off and started looking for some elk, and didn't see a whole lot that evening. But then we got back to camp, sat down, kind of came up with a game plan when Kurt was there. And the area that we're hunting is big mesa country. So it's not your high country, dark timber, alpine type stuff. You're hunting the cedars, up on this kind of plateau, in northeastern New Mexico. And, I mean, it wasn't definitely not what Kurt was expecting. Like, he definitely was looking for something that was a little bit like, he's like, man, I want to go far and I want to go deep, and I want to really get back there and live with the bulls, where they're at. But it just didn't make a whole lot of sense for the area that we were hunting. It's a pretty good chunk of dirt, but it still just, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And we had some really great, help from some of the locals, the rancher that lives there, that gave us access to the state land that we were hunting, allowed us to cross through her property, to access some of that state land, that we were planning on hunting. And so that all kind of, it made more sense to come in and out every single day versus staying back there, just because of the access and the ease of.
And what happened in the morning, and then what happened as the day progressed?
Yeah, so that morning we got up and we hiked to the top of this plateau, and as soon as we got to the top, right as the sun was coming up, James was like, I'm going to just throw out a little bugle and just see if we can't hear anything. And James bugled, and right away we got a response. And so we were like, all right, well, let's go. Are you ready? And he was all about it. And we took off and got to this little rise. And just as we were peeking over the top, there were two younger kind of raghorn type bulls just sparring out in the open. And then we did notice a bigger bull that had just gone over the ridge. Like we saw him for a split second, knew he was a good bull. So we were like, well, let's get our wind right and let's start getting closer. And so we made our way closer, peeked over the top. The wind was perfect. The wind was coming straight in our face. And we had peeked down and immediately we saw, a 340, 350 type bull down at the bottom of this mesa. Unfortunately, he was on some private, just on a small little chunk of private, and we weren't able to go after him right away. And I mean, about that time, me and James had kind of started talking about it. We're like, these thermals are going to change here real quick. We probably need to come off the top of this mesa around and get into a place where we can start looking for some of these bulls that are out there moving. And right about that time, the wind hit the back of our neck, and that bull lifted his head, and he took off. And it was still cool. I mean, it was just a super cool experience for Kurt. I know he wasn't expecting that right away. He was like, I honestly didn't think that we'd see us this quick, And I mean, from that point forward, I mean, we were into them. We were right in the middle of them. We had found a bull in a decent spot in the middle of the afternoon where we thought that we could, get on them. So we started making a play and ended up busting a pretty good bull at about 40 yards, just came around a corner. We were trying to be quiet, trying to move slow. But it wasn't a bull that we'd originally seen, or anyway, he took off, flew out of there. So we backed out, and we just kind of found a good spot to glass for the afternoon. And this all happened super quick. It was a 1 day, one and done sort of deal, which is super cool. But we had gotten up to
it was a lot better than most archers had it.
Yes. Yes. I mean, the thing about it, Aron, is
the rut was rough this year.
Yeah, it was.
I know. But I've been dealing with it. It's fucking horrible. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and the craziest thing is they really weren't talking up there. They weren't. It wasn't a bugle fest up there. Every single bull we saw was in a bachelor group. They weren't with cows. And so we didn't necessarily get this like crazy screaming match of an elk hunt that everybody would hope and dream about. But there were plenty of elk. We saw lots of bulls. And so we kind of regrouped, made a game plan, and we had all of us had ran out of water right at about 3:00 in the afternoon, and so James, he is an absolute killer, incredible elk caller, incredible elk hunter. And not to say I'm not good, but he definitely has years on me, and has killed lots more elk than I have. We had kind of found that big bull that we saw on the private had shifted onto the public, onto us. And so the game plan was, hey, with limited time, what I'll do is I'll run back to the truck. I'll go get loaded up with water, and any supplies that we need, drop off any gear. And then you guys will take off, get to the rim where you can look down and find that bull, and then go after him. And so I wasn't there with them when they killed that bull. I had just gotten to the top of the mesa, started glassing down there, and had seen 15 different bulls in that canyon. And about 2 minutes later, I got a text, bull down. And it was super exciting and just awesome that it worked out the way that it did. And what had happened is those guys, they'd found that bull, they dropped down onto this finger ridge where all the bulls were at. And they played their wind perfect, got below those bulls, and kind of were just waiting for those bulls to just start feeding down the ridge. And they had 3 different bulls come by. And the bull that he happened to kill was the first bull to step out, and Kurt wasn't waiting for another opportunity. He saw his opportunity and he made it happen. And the coolest part is he did it kind of all by himself. James stayed back a little bit. They had seen the bull up ahead. James sent Kurt, hey, you need to cover the distance on your own and make it happen. And he did. And I mean, it was super, it was a really special experience just to be there with them. Obviously I wasn't there right when it happened. But I had hiked down to the very bottom, got to them. It was about, we were about 2.3 miles from the truck or so. I got to them and they were all, it was funny because as soon as I saw him, I started, hooting and hollering and, yelling, hey, congratulations, great bull. And he was just like, yeah, awesome. like a little stoic, but that's just who he is, and it was cool. Like you could tell he was excited. He just didn't show it a whole lot.
Kurt's definitely the guy where he's like, hey, the building's on fire. You should probably get out of here. Come on, guy. And I mean, I can't say anything because I'm just as bad. You know what I mean? Like something happens, I'm like, wow, that's a good shot. Cool. And people are like, man, are you excited? I'm like, I'm excited on the inside. And Kurt's far worse than me. He's a very stoic individual.
Well, the other underlier of the whole story too, it's super cool. Like Jared mentioned, there was some access things that were happening. Obviously, James created a hell of an opportunity, but like I love that for Kirk. I love guys like Kirk need to know that like what they did for our country and for all the years that they did it, like it matters a lot to people. Like it really does. And if hunting's your jam, I think that there's obviously so many amazing organizations that are trying to facilitate those type of experiences for guys, and I'm pumped for that's one that he got to do, because those are very expensive elk hunts out on those places, and they lend themselves to success. Those elk act like elk are supposed to act. And it was a perfect fit for a well-deserved guy for sure.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like with Kurt, like stoic, and then he obviously wants to go beat himself up or whatever. And keep in mind, I was supposed to go down. I say keep in mind, but I was supposed to go with Kurt, and I am getting my ass handed to me on Wyoming General 4 to 6 miles, and thinking, Kurt, take this gift and be happy, because you could be here getting, hearing absolutely nothing 4 to 6 miles in. So, because the rut for me didn't kick in until my last. So my tag stopped the 19th, starts again on the 1st. So like Levi was there. He probably talked to you. Like it was miserable. And I say that like I can go hiking anytime, and we were basically bow hiking, right? Like it just wasn't great. And so I was happy. One, I sent Levi down to film that. Kurt's a great guy, great experience. You guys are awesome. But the other thing would have been Levi would have just kept filming trees with me. Like there was nothing going on. And so it worked out great. And I was, Kurt was like, hey, what do you think this, it's his first elk with a bow, his first bull, and I was like, I don't know, man, 265. I didn't, looked at one angle of the picture, and I'm like, Kurt, most people's first bull is a cow. Like you did good. Like that's, you did amazing. He was very, grateful. And I mean, that couldn't have happened to a better dude. But if you needed excitement from a human, he's one of the last guys. I mean, the dude just is calm, right? He's just all the time calm. He's just never, excited at all. It's just Kurt. That's how he is.
No. And of all ones for a little grace from God on, I was back and forth with Derek on his stuff that he was doing, and me and you, I think, talked earlier about some of the stuff that he was doing this year, and he was having a similar experience as you were in Wyoming. Everybody was, right? Like, it was from Montana to West Texas this year. That rut just didn't go till really late. Like, it just never did crank, and it for almost, I mean, guys had a good day here or a good morning or this or that and closed the deal, but overall it wasn't ever just epic like it can be. And for like say that a little grace from God on a guy that deserved it was pretty cool. Like, for that to come together as quick as it did, and we've all been there. Like, God Almighty, like, if you want to go get humble, just pick your bow up and start hunting, because that'll get you quick. And when it does come together, it's beautiful, because it doesn't very often like that.
No, and I mean, that's like with everything we talked about before this, with your expectations, realistic ones, what you want, what type of hunt you want, what animal. I mean, it's important because, anytime you're burning points or money, it's a gamble with how it's going to turn out. You never know, is the rut going to hit late? And it seems historically it's hitting later and later. It seems like to me every year. And you do have,
I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. And yep. you do have days, right? There are, a cow goes into estrus, maybe gets some shit fired up, but overall October 1st is probably back in the day
as good as any day.
Yep. Well, and I'm going back in with a 300 PRC. The bow is staying home, I think, this next go. Really, I'm shooting something, right? I'm going to get an elk. But like September, back in the day, and I say this is like 15, 20 years ago, my favorite time was September 6th through the 12th time frame. Like, that's when they first started cranking pretty good. They weren't all cowed up. Well, now most places September 6th is crickets, right? Unless
three biggest bulls I've ever guided and walked up to in my life were on September 9th, all three of them.
Yeah.
And it's different now. It's different. Something's different.
Unless you're hunting above tree line and you're catching them in their summer feeding patterns and the transition, it hasn't been blown out by other hunters, and you can sneak in when they're feeding, going in out of the timber. That's a little bit different. But as far as the calling portion of it, when you get in that circle of life and the rut fest, and it can happen earlier, but like this year's a good example for me. We're quite a ways in. We're in a good unit. And it did not kick off until September 19th. And believe me, we were all over in there. And when I say that, if you would have went 2 days earlier, you would have not thought the unit I was in was good, right? That you're seeing some tracks or whatever. And then 19th, 5 to 7 bulls cranking off all around us. And that was my last evening. And that's when it got kicked off. We did kill a bull a couple days with a rifle. But that's where I was trying to tell Kurt, I'm like, accept this gift and be happy, because you can go get your ass kicked and suffer and not hear shit every year. That's easy, right? But to get into elk and that kind of experience, that one's a little more difficult. So I wanted to thank you guys as well, because it couldn't have happened more to a deserving dude. So I was very happy that he got to go down there.
Yeah, we agree. It was super cool to share that experience with him. And then, yeah, just for the way that it worked out. I mean, being that the bulls,
he has the rest of his
anything.
He has the rest of his life to get his ass kicked. It's good to have one that just goes awesome.
Yeah. It doesn't happen very often, especially your first time around.
No. And I mean, bringing this kind of back, home or what, whatever, like with everything we were talking about, these are huge. I mean, you talked about the guy that was happy with what he shot and shot a giant bull. He's checked that box, right? He's got that covered, and now he's maybe shooting
his
smaller.
His progression has taken him a different place. Yep, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I mean, this I talk about because I constantly, and I say constantly, there's certain people, online, and this isn't a bad thing, but right, they're hunting, $10, $20, $30,000 tags, 40, whatever they cost, and absolutely nothing, wrong with that. But if you want to, and I would like to get your guys' feedback on this, do you want to hunt the San Carlos, the Hill, the Picket, Or do you want to maybe spend probably less money, use your guys' services, maybe get some points, potentially a landowner tag, go with an outfitter, do a drop camp, still have the wilderness experience getting horsebacked in, but also have a very high percentage of chance of success, right? And that's what kind of person you are. Some guys want to come back to a 5-star lodge, but you probably are going to get an amazing experience using your guys' services. You can give advice and get horse packed in, maybe stay in a wall tent, hunt around it all day. You're 10 miles in, whatever you are. That's very, very personal. That's what experience you want. So it's very, I mean, I'm rambling on here, but dealing with people people messaging me what they want. My perfect hunt would be 300-inch bulls or more, right? Running around like crazy in the wilderness, dropped off 10 to 12 miles in, where I've got great success. But that you don't figure that out overnight. And you also are probably not going to get the best advice in the world on an internet forum, because people are going to lie. Because if it's that good, they're probably not going to tell you about it. They're probably going to, shift fire a little bit because they don't want to screw up their spot. So,
well, and I think that their, experience level on the flip side, even the guy that is genuinely trying to help. Like if I'm living in, on the western front of Colorado, and I've hunted there my entire life, and I know right where I'm going, and I'm going to pack in, and I've done it for 10 years in a row, and you run into that guy on the forum, and what he's telling you about what his reality is, and he can be an open book, oftentimes, unfortunately, doesn't translate into everyone's reality, whether that guy lives in Nevada and Utah and has been around mountains, or he's from the East Coast. Like, it comes both ways, right? There could be some dishonesty and there can be blatant honesty, and yet it's the source and how it's being delivered leaves it open for some heartache, unfortunately, because he's like, yeah, no, it's right up there and we go kill elk and it's awesome. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're a third generation that's done that, and you're being taught from the time you're 6 years old how to be successful, usually in a very even specific area. Like, you're very aware of all these intricate details that lead up to that year in and year out success. Whereas even if you're an open book and you tell them right where you're going and what unit and all of that same result isn't likely to happen with somebody that you just told on the internet, right? Like, that person needs to be coached a whole lot more than just where to go.
Yeah. No, that's very important. And off the subject, but I've talked about this on other podcasts. What kind of person you are as an individual, and I would like to get your guys' feedback. But if you go with the guide, right, you use the draw, you use their service, they connect you with an outfitter. If you are not capable of being guided, that can cause a very unhappy, uncomfortable trip. And what I'm alluding to is you don't guide the guide. And so, like, that's another thing that you need to take into consideration in the sense of whether you have experience or not. If you're just that one human being that is not very good at being told what to do, and I'm only bringing this up because I've gotten quite a few messages about this, I was with the outfitter and he did this and I think he was wrong. And I'm like, well, why did you pay the outfitter? Like, if you're, again, things you need to think about if you're going to have your ultimate trip. And I don't know how much you guys have to deal, with that, but I have found there are certain people that should definitely maybe not ever use an outfitter, because you're both going to walk away pissed off, the guide and the hunter. So those are all things to think about when you're trying to plan.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that the really good communication, just like anything in life, like good communication helps with a lot of that, because I'll use this as kind of a unique example, but I think it's a relevant one to the context of the conversation here. So in New Mexico, we do a lot of these oryx hunts down here, and we have we guide lots of guys on the once in a lifetime hunts that happen on White Sands Missile Range, and we do a lot of the off-range hunts that are easier to draw, and we even have like private land over the counter stuff that we help guys with. But it's probably the one that this happens as much or more on is that once in a lifetime hunt, right? So you draw this tag, it's got a once in a lifetime status. The entire season is 2.5 days, and you get an email from the hunt coordinator on White Sands that says, yeah, it's scheduled for 2.5 days, but sometimes we lose some time because of some military operation that's happening on the missile range. And you're like, holy crap. So you could be like the very best hunter and the most, seasoned guy in the woods. But for most guys, a once in a lifetime tag with those kind of parameters can create some anxiety. And to your point, like, those guys end up booking a hunt oftentimes because it makes sense, all things considered. But if there isn't been really good communication, that it's like, listen, I'm hiring you because I have not the slightest clue on field judging an oryx, and I only have 2.5 days, and I would like a real crack at shooting at least a solid representation, if not an above average representation, because it's a once in a lifetime tag. I'm only having you there for field judging. I can do everything else. Fair enough. I'm only having you here because I would like to start in a 2.5 day hunt period, driving straight to a place that is productive. I don't want to waste any time. And we found that when the communication is really clear on that, and or the complete other opposite, that it's like, and this happens that, they're up until this year, there was no age limit in New Mexico. As long as you had a hunter's education, you could come and hunt. I mean, we killed a desert bighorn with a 5-year-old kid a few years ago. There was no age limit, and so it could be a completely novice hunter that you're truly bridging every gap with them, and all of their shortcomings, or it could be almost like this ultra specific task that they have you there for. And you're right though, like a lot of those details, if they're not covered incorrectly, and to your point, just like anything, like, yeah, there are some guys that at the end of the day, it's like, hey, if you're going to hire this guy to help you field judge, but then you don't listen to him when he tells you to not shoot, like, what was the point of you is spending the money? And if you're just that guy, then maybe fair enough, go do it on your own, and you're going to be fine, and you're going to be great. But yeah, lots of communication. That's like anything in life, and that's, I think, and the other thing is, and where I see this play into it a lot of times, like, I found that, like, being a third party in those types of events that are leading up to a hunt kind of can allow, as long as consultant is doing his job correctly, it allows for like a lot more robust of a conversation. It allows a lot more, there isn't as much anxiety about asking quote unquote dumb questions or this or that. And being a third party allows that hunter to really just dive through some of the stuff that they may not be as inclined to say straight to an outfitter. And I'll use the most common one, is, how much do I tip, right? That's obviously the most, well, maybe not obvious to everyone, but it's a very common one. But that's a very awkward question. It's an awkward question to ask your outfitter or your guide, but you can ask a third party without having the anxiety. And that's just one example of all sorts of details of the hunt or questions that us being a third party in it, there isn't any anxiety in asking us, and we can help articulate that and put people at ease and take the anxiety out of it. And then again, as the hunt takes off and moves into it, it just feels better for everybody. Because those questions did get asked.
Yeah, I've done entire podcasts on tipping because it's important and people don't know, right? So on the tipping side, and we'll bounce back to that in a minute. But just as an example, as we're 140 or 1 hour and 40 minutes, If I'm going to use your service, this is the info that I would give you off of my experience. Hey guys, I pretty much have an unlimited timeline, right? I'm very liberal schedule. I've got a decent enough budget. I'm more of a mule deer guy, but sprinkle some elk in there. But I'm really more of a quantity over quality guy, numbers. So if I'm going to go on mule deer hunts, I'm really not looking for that 200-inch, 180-inch giant. I'd much rather go on multiple stocks a day of bucks in the 155 to 170 range than I would hunt for 8 days for the chance of one giant. Elk is the same way. I'm available to travel pretty much whenever. I can go anywhere I want, but I would much prefer quantity over quality for me personally. I'm not opposed to being guided, but if I had the choice, I'd much rather get dropped off somewhere, horse packed in. All of those things are what are important to me, and that's what I'm going to get across to you out of the gate, because that's what's going to make my experience the best one. And you could go with and I'm using air quotations, trophy hunting kind of outfitter. And if I'm not a trophy hunter and we're passing up 320 bulls and he's looking for 380, I promise you it's going to get awkward, because I'm going to be like, hey, Dick, I will shoot that. Stop leaving. Stop driving by. I want to shoot that one. And that happens. And I get those stories, constantly. And that may be, that may be just me. But if you get it out front and out in the open and say, man, I'm not a great trophy hunter, I just want to get experience in lots of different opportunities. All very important. Would you guys agree, disagree, have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I 100%. I mean, and that is the entire idea of it. I mean, in all seriousness, Aaron, is like everyone has. I think someone like yourself that has been in the game a long time, very experienced, spent a lot of time in I would even argue refining what you like. Right. And you have a kind of, let's call it a strong opinion on what your favorite stuff is. Right. And some guys don't exactly have the ability, because they haven't done much or any of it yet, to refine all of that. But there are guys like yourself. I work with a number of guys like that as well, that get all the way down into these ultra specific things that they would like help with, and that's the whole idea of it. Because until that gets vocalized, regardless of ultra amount of details or it's a very generic goal, until it gets vocalized and dug into a little bit, then it's hard to make a plan. And again, we have a little thing that we used to use. We don't use it very much, but it was in the very beginning, and call it like a little catchphrase. It was like, dream it, draw it, live it. Right. And yet, and that it really does. That's the whole idea, is back planning any goal you have of any kind. Is obviously, we're all taught from, young years that's how you accomplish things in life, is you create a goal and you back plan and you do all of that stuff. And when it comes to hunting, I don't know how many guys truly navigate that as much. It's much more generic. It's much more broad. They haven't really articulated as much of these refined details. And I don't know that many of them can, until they've had as much experience as yourself or others that are out there. But that's where guys like us, again, kind of can bridge that gap. We ask all these different questions so that we can start verbalizing the goal, and then it starts to take shape. And not to say that, I'll have someone kind of answer all these questions, and then, I'll maybe try and give them this, summary of what they just told me. Do you feel like this? And I'd be lying if in 12 years I haven't had guys tell me no, that's not what I meant. And you're like, oh, okay, well, we got to go back then and re-ask some of these questions, and I need to understand this better. And other times it's more often, I'm just better at it nowadays. We'll summarize that goal and be like, this is where you're at. This is what you're feeling. And once we have that identified, like just like any goal, like then we start back planning, and that's where not only becoming really intimate with each of the states and how they work, but more importantly, how they all work together. Outside of, fair enough. If it comes across every once in a while, guys, like, I want to shoot a elk. And you're like, you want to get into elk hunting, or you just want to shoot a elk? And it's like, I just want to shoot a elk. Well, obviously that's a whole different kind of deal. But most guys, they call and they want to get into elk hunting. And so when they are getting in, or deer hunting or whatever, or all of it, they want to get into Western big game hunting, like knowing how all of these states work, knowing how all the deadlines work, and then being able to put and articulate a real plan around leveraging those applications. That I don't know how anyone could do that unless you would have to be seriously. I mean, I don't know, 12 years I've done this all day, every day for 12 years. And there's still moments and complexities that I have to really ponder about with guys because of what their schedules are and what their goals are and those types of things, that it's like, which one makes the most sense based on their goals. But that is what we do. And we help 2,000 guys a year currently. And it's working. Like I would love to, there's so many guys that I could bring on here and talk about, 10, 12 years of a relationship. Most of these guys have never even shaken their hands. Like, I talk to them once a month or maybe once a quarter. But I'm just a voice on the phone, which is a weird thing, especially from a guy that came from a guiding background. Like, that's such an intimate, like, hunting. It's like the ultimate team building experience. I swear, it's one of them, right? It's the one that any of us can do if we want to. But if you have like a hard goal, and then two or more people come together and they bust their ass to accomplish that goal, and then they do, obviously there is a meaningful relationship that comes from that amount of effort within a team. So hunting lends itself to that very much. And it's harder to accomplish that through phone calls, right? Like, it really is. And it was a hard thing for me to deal with, where I felt like so close to these guys that I'd hunted and guided for all these years. And now I'm trying to do the same thing over the phone. But I will say, like, you do a hunt or two a year with guys for 3-4 years, and it's more good than bad. There is a genuineness that comes from it. And we're in the relationship building business as much as we are anything, because I don't know how we could do all of what we're doing with these guys and helping them check the box on these life goals that they've created for themselves without having like a genuine concern for them. And that's probably why, like, dude, I'm like the most long-winded guy you'll ever meet, because I don't know how else to do it other than to spend time with them on the phone and dig through all of those types of details. And it's amazing when goals are accomplished. Sometimes it's just like start back over same goal again, and other times and often it's just to adjust through that progression in hunting as goals get accomplished. But it's really cool, man. It's a really neat thing to watch guys and have this little tiny piece of the puzzle for them in those moments when they accomplish these things that really matter a lot to them. It does. It's this is why they work. This is why they live to do this. And then you play this little tiny part, and then it's I just said the F word on your podcast. Sorry. It's awesome. Like, yeah. I really enjoy it.
And I think that, just to rewind, go over a couple things like we're talking about now, as you're talking the experience and, relationship building and, obviously helping people live their dream. One of the things that I would really suggest, if you can afford it, and this is for me being a do-it-yourself guy and guiding, I would suggest getting a guide. And I kind of wanted to rewind a little bit. If you're first time kind of going out west, and it doesn't matter if it's South Dakota mule deer or Wyoming elk or whatever, I would go with a guide if you have the money, far before trying to hack it out on your own. Because what you're going to take 10 years to learn, a guide and an outfitter is going to speed up that process that you may later on branch out and go on your own once you've kind of learned the ropes. But I think to help live that dream, a guide and an outfitter are generally going to help that dream become a reality and a success going with an outfitter. And I can,
yeah, 100%. It's just like anything. Like if I, I think there's a lot of people that can relate. Like there isn't, the whole idea of getting jobs and doing tasks and all these different things. Like I don't know many guys that don't feel like there's a whole lot of stuff they could do and do well. They would just need someone to sit down and show them how to do it a time or two, and then they could kind of be off and running. And I think that what you're saying is kind of in that same people are capable of a lot of things, right? But until you've kind of had a teacher or a mentor in just about anything that you're doing or doing well, that's a long, hard learning curve. Or you can like get an education or go to a trade school or whatever it is that we're talking about, or get an outfitter, and all of those things shorten the learning curve dramatically and get you off on a path. And hunting's no different. It's just a skill set that some guys, it's like skiing. If you've never skied a day in your life, but you go, I promise by the last run of the day, you're going to do a whole lot better than you did on the first run of the day. And you're going to get there a whole lot faster if you have somebody spend a half a day with you, kind of showing you what to do. And that's, again, hunting is in the same context. Like you do it a few times with guys who really know what they're doing. If and you show up and you're sitting on a spot and the guy pulls out his tripod and puts a pair of 15s up, and you're like, what is that? Like, I remember I used to guide for Dwayne Adams down on the Kaibab every year. And the first time I ever was down there with Dwayne, he doesn't let you just have to carry his backpack for, I don't know what it's like 4 or 5 hunts before he'll eventually let you go with clients. But watching him dissect a hill, this was 15, 18 years ago, whatever it was. And then talk to you about it for a minute. And then the next time I'm over there trying to do it, and by 20 days into it, like I'm 10x better than I was before. And that's what you can have from guiding, is whether it's the glassing, whether it's the, calling, whether it's even just, I'm doing the same stuff with my 13-year-old is like the luckiest kid I've ever met in the draw process. Is like, you can't imagine that this kid's draw more. He draws tags like he's shopping on Amazon, and God bless him, he's gotten really good at killing stuff with me. But this last year, he had to have another Javelina tag in his pocket, and I'm like, you don't get to use your rifle this year for a Javelina. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, Parker, you're good at killing stuff, but you don't know how to hunt anything yet. And that's what we're doing at 13. Like, I got him to a point where he's quite talented. When I tell him to step into the gun, he'll follow me anywhere, and he'll make a shot, and it's great. But if I ask him right now, if we're out guiding an oryx hunt and that animal's 2,000 yards away, and I'm like, what do you think we should do? I'd say about half the time he gives me a half relevant answer. And I'm like, well, what if we did this or this or this? And he's learning. And that's what happens when you're being with guys who do it for a living and professionals. And not to say there's not, unfortunately, bad guides out there as well. That's a real thing. But when you're with somebody who's really done it a lot and knows why they're doing what they're doing, man, that learning curve can be shortened so fast. And if the ultimate goal is to be more DIY oriented, great. Like, that's fine too. And I have that conversation with guys every year. That is one of their goals. I want to be able to do this on my own. And so sometimes I'll even, that can dictate, that can change who and where I'm going to send you to go hunt like that. Like, we know these guys. Like I know the guy that's just going to take you up to the top of the hill and you're going to shoot one and he's going to go home that night. and that's great. And I know other guys that almost truly enjoy that part of taking people hunting is teaching them about it and enjoying it. And that's just for their personality. And that's the right fit. That's what you should do. Not the salty old dude that's just tired and wants to be done and go home. Like, that's not a good fit either.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%. The other thing while we're talking about this, I want to make sure we touch on is the tipping portion. I'm going to give my 2 cents on this, and this is somebody who's tipped and been tipped, right? So I've been around both.
Sure.
Minimum of 10% of the total cost of the hunt. Now, how you divvy up that 10%, to me, I think it's 10% plus. So when I say that, if the hunt's $10,000, your guide gets a minimum of $1,000. If there's a camp cook, you got to kick them $150. If the packer worked his ass off, this is kind of personal choice. You might deduct from the $1,000 if the packer worked his butt off to give the packer some. I personally do not like to leave it up, me personally, to the guide of how that's divvied up. If the packer was working his butt off, I want to make sure the packer's taken care of as well. And so, but a minimum of 10%, no matter what, unless it was just an epic cluster fuck, right? And that's me. But if you had like the hunt of a lifetime, I think 15% is a little bit more realistic if you can afford it. Now, the other thing that I would add, to this is like, the gear thing. Like, guides don't make a living off of gear, but
no,
I think giving the option, meaning like if I've got a set of Swaro EL ranges and I'll be like, just, hey, Billy Bob, man, do you want these EL ranges or do you want cash? I'm good either way. You tell me. 'Cause if he's running some shit ass set of binoculars, he may be like, hell yeah, give me the binos, man. I need them.
It's how I ended up with my SLCs, my 15 SLCs like that. And I was a little savvy about it, like all week long. Like, hey, let me borrow yours. Let me borrow yours.
What?
And sure enough, but yeah, there are moments, but like to your point, like you wouldn't tip a waitress a set of silverware. Right. Like, she has plenty of them. Like, these guys need cash to pay bills. Like, they're not doing this for, especially now, maybe more than even 20 years ago. Right. Like, it could have been just because there wasn't as many, call it professional guides full time. This is my living 20 years ago as there is now. Like, but if that is truly in every sense of the word, like, this is how they survive. Cash is king. And I would go one step further, honestly, Aaron. Like, I've said this, like 10 to 20%, because if that hunt's under 10 grand, I would be leaning a little closer to 20%.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
If it's over 10 grand, fair enough. Like, we can start, we don't have to be unreal. Like, it's not meant to be this ultra crazy, painful thing. No tipping is ever meant to be this ultra painful tipping moment. It's meant to show an appreciation, but I also think, to your point, it's important to understand for guys that are going on those adventures and experiences yes, the guide is getting paid daily rates, but he's also basing like his ability to be out there and doing that as a living on a pretty what's the right word? Consistent number or value of tips that he's getting that allows him to say, yes, this is going to work for me. And so when he gets, especially if he's good, if he gets shorted hard, like, man, that one that hurts, and because of the nature of tipping, it feels like a personal attack almost. Sometimes you're just like, what on earth? Like, I will say it is still a personal thing. I've got a handshake when I thought I was going to get a new truck, and I've got $1,000 when I thought I was going to get a handshake. I've had the gamut. I've been tipped trucks. I've been tipped binoculars. I've been tipped massive, more cash than I ever. I couldn't even fathom that was what was happening. And I've got handshakes as I put the guy on his jet.
Yeah, and I want to add to this because it's very important to me that people understand this, because I've been on both sides of the spectrum on this, sure. Right? And so, like, obviously, I've been lucky enough to, guide people on $100,000+ hunts, right? And so, sure. To me, the way that I would really, and some people are just tight asses, right? I mean, that's just, I get it, and those people I generally like to punch right in the fucking face, because it really irritates me, because it's like, look, dude, you got and I say this but you got the best service humanly possible. You killed a giant animal. You had great food. You had a good time. Right now, if you're broke as a joke and you could barely afford to hunt, that's one thing. But it's like you got everything you wanted. All right. So tip accordingly, meaning like I said, 10% minimum. And when I look at this, I look at it like, okay, what if a guy goes to your house to put in a shower door? Does he have, now, should he get tipped or not? Obviously, generally not. But what I'm getting at is, like, that guy's pay is his pay, right? He is not counting on tips. And so you don't really need to pay the guy, right? You don't have to give him a tip. You might want to if he did a great job. Guides pay, a lot of that is based on tipping. I mean, 100%. And so if you got the best out of that person, right? Why, what is the big deal if you have the money for some extra cash towards him? Because I can promise you, if you're going to continue hunting, that will travel. And when I say that, will travel, if you're trying to kill, let's say, the 29, and the first 3 you screw the guide, believe me, you are not going to get the best service possible on the 4th, 5th, 6th, and certainly not the 17th, 18th, and 19th animal, because you're screwing your guide. Like, why on earth would they try for you? They're going to take you out, but are they going to go the distance knowing you're going to be a tight ass in the end? So keep that in mind, because I've been lucky. I've always been, tipped really well and, everything else. But, like, there's nothing worse, and an influencer the worst for this. Like, here's a bunch of my old clothes as a tip. Like, come on, like, it's, And so, again, at the end, I always ask, like, if a guy has some cheaper binoculars and I have really good ones, I just ask, hey, man, do you want gear or do you want money? And I'm good with either one, but
super fair question.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, I was going to tip you $1,400 because that's about 15 to 20%, but I have a set of $3,000 EL ranges. Do you want these or do you want the money? And I'll tell him, like, look, dude, I'm going to give you $1,400 or these EL ranges. Both are well above. I'm an over tipper. Both are well above what they should get, right? And so I just ask. And the thing is there's nothing to me more, just degrading than trying your ass off and getting a dude a great animal. And one guy I know, he gives autographed photos of himself as a tip. It's like, really?
Oh my.
And so, again,
no, that's so funny. Like,
I'll tell you offline.
Dude, I'm with you. Like I said, it's hard not to be offended. Like, sometimes, like, dude, I had a guy that, like, I got like one of those free Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation knives that you get when you sign up for Rocky Mountain Foundation one time, and like, and that guy, like, showed up in his own plane, and you're like, dude, I'm like trying to keep the lights on, man. Like I got formula to buy, and fair enough. Some guys are just like that, but I'm like you. Like I've been really fortunate. I've hunted all over. I've done a little bit in the world. I've done a lot in North America, and it's been really amazing. And I think it comes from, coming from, and it honestly, to be honest, Aaron, it's like a lot of the outfitters that we work with, I feel really fortunate to get a chance, because that's a new thing too, right? Like with Facebook and Instagram and all these things out there, like the necessity on the booking agency side of things for us, different than the service that we provide around submitting applications. There's a lot of the guys that I work with that I truly believe like they have zero need for us. But they allow us to work with them, and they allow us to send customers to them, and I'm really grateful for those guys. But part of where it comes from is I do think we come at it from a little bit of a different background. All the guys here that I work with, we're all guides, and we guided a lot, and I've been maybe more fortunate than the rest of them at being quote unquote the client in a number of those places. But like when we've been there, like in the truck or on the side of the mountain, and you're trying to get a little better feel for the gentleman that you're just getting to know, and you just got linked together, and now you're going hunting, and you're getting to what are his expectations and what does he want, and you become very aware that what his expectations are and what his dream is, it is completely impossible in the area that you're currently hunting, and you're now the guide, and you're the one that's having to explain to him what reality is. And I guess it just from so many times of being in the guide in those situations, like I feel like we have such a distaste for that we try really hard for that type of stuff, because in all transparency, and the only person that isn't losing in that situation is the consultant who's sitting at his desk. Yeah. Everyone else lost. That guy's just sitting at his desk, and he's none the wiser. But been there, and it matters to us because it's not fun for anyone involved. And that's where again, we keep circling the wagon back. But the communication, the conversations, lots of questions, and getting to know people, because that's how you understand the expectations. That's how you create more clear, ideas about what reality is, and all of those things. As much as anything, to me, that's what lends itself to an overall positive experience, even if you end up with a rough rut like we just all got done with, right? Like that's where you can, if all the variables that can be controlled are being controlled and expectations were set correctly, then all of a sudden that's still a really positive experience, or it can be, even if the hunting was rough for that particular week or the other.
The only thing that I want to add, and this is maybe more towards people like yourselves and myself, there are certain areas you're going to go hunt that you have to have a guide, right? That's what makes it legal.
Like a wilderness area in Wyoming or places in, species in Alaska and stuff like that.
British Columbia, NWT, like, you pick it, like you have to have Alberta, mule deer hunting, you have to have a guide. I think it's important to have, I know it is extremely important to have the conversation ahead of time with the guide of letting them know your experience, and that you really, and I mean, this isn't a case, I'm going to say this more of me, and I don't mean this at all in like an arrogant way, is I really am using the guide to make it legal. Right. Like when I say that for certain types, so like a mountain goat hunt, I've been on a lot of mountain goat hunts. And so when I went in one area, I just told the guy, and I'd been on far more goat hunts than him, of like, hey man, I've been on a lot of goat hunts, dude. And, so yeah, really, you're just here to keep me company and make it legal. And I'm probably going to kind of do my own thing within reason. I'm going to take your advice, obviously, but like I've been on a lot of these hunts, so he knows, and you want to do that very politely and treat that situation where you don't come off as a total fucking asshole, right? But you want to also let them know, right? Like, hey, I've been hunting my whole life. I got pretty good experience. Like, just let them know so they know where you're at and you know where they're at. So, for example, like with a goat hunt, if you're going to go on one of those and you've been on a ton, it's like, hey, I've been on a shitload of goat hunts, man. I can score really well. So that way, one, they can use you as an asset and they know what you're doing. But, obviously
you're hunting together at that point as much as anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's important. And when I say that's important, like I think extremely important because you're basically now not a guide, but like you said, you're working, together. And that's very important on the gear list, because if you're very good at judging mule deer or goats or sheep and you're going with a guide, you generally ask the guide, hey, should I bring a spotter? They're generally going to tell you probably not, right? Because they've got one. But if they know you can judge and you've got the eyes of a hawk and you're an asset, they might tell you to bring a spotter. They might, who knows? I'm throwing shit out in the air, but communication is huge. Realistic expectations are huge. And again, it's just, in the end, it's to make a better hunt for the person, for you. So.
Right.
You guys disagree with any things 100%. I just said?
No, I think it's pretty spot on, man. That's just the way, and it's good. This is the type of information and stuff that I think it helps people, maybe even have the confidence to articulate as they're on the phone having these discussions, whether it's with an entity like the draw or directly with the outfitters or whatever it is. Those are super important details for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like super laid back, right? I don't, I'm very chill. I'm not a great trophy hunter, but I do have a lot of experience. And a good example, if you're a bow hunter and you go with an outfitter who's more of a gun outfitter, and that,
that's a train wreck.
Yeah. Yep, and so one of the very few times, I'm stalking in, the guy's got Koflatch plastic boots on and a Barney's pack squeaking. We're about 150 yards out, and I stopped and I looked and I'm like, hey man, I need you to do me a favor. And he's like, what? And I'm like, you need to take that fucking pack off right now, and you need to get them boots off if you have any ambition of getting any closer to these animals with me. And he's like, well, I've got the gun. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. Get them off, and get them off now. And he's like, what? And I'm like, you sound like a rat orgy. Get them off, dude. I've got a recurve. We are not getting close enough with you. Well, he was a gun guide. It's not his fault, but I should have done a better job maybe earlier explaining. I don't know if he'd ever guided a recurve or a traditional archer of how important it is of absolute silence to get within 30 yards. And some people right now probably thinking, that goes without saying, he should have known. Not necessarily. If you've guided 20 years rifle hunters, you got a stick bow guy, he's carried that pack frame every day of his life. Those Koflatch boots have kept him alive, but they're loud. And so, again, it was a very 5 seconds of me uncomfortable, because I'm looking at him like, dude, I will smack the color out of your hair if you don't get that shit off, because we are not getting any closer, because I got a recurve. And it was later on, he laughed. He's like, dude, I didn't even ever notice my boots squeaked. I'm like, well, you've been wearing them for 20 years. It's normal. It's like living by a train. You get used to the sound of a train going by, and it's second nature. It's just normal. So again, communication is huge.
Yep, 100%. It really is. That's just like everything. And yet, I do think that for whatever reason, there is, people are non-confrontational, and they maybe feel like some of those questions or those types of conversations might be confrontational, and yet I don't think that they are, and I think that most good guides, most good clients would agree. This is how you start a good hunt is through all of this type of details and managing all of it so that there isn't any surprise. Surprises are the worst thing. And when all of it's been covered and gone through thoroughly, that just lends itself to it's just a good start. And when things have a good start, they often have a good finish. And if they have a bad start, they tend to go bad.
Yeah.
They just stay bad.
Just to add to that, like you said, it may seem like a weird, not a confrontation, but a weird subject. You may be uncomfortable with it. But what I can promise you is bringing it up earlier is far better than dealing with it after. And when I say that, it's going to be real uncomfortable. You may not give the tip the guy that what the guy thinks he deserves, but he you may not be tipping him what you think he deserves, but he may be thinking he's done all he can, but he didn't know what you wanted because you didn't communicate it with him. And again, it's just communication is a very important thing to get the best quality hunt that you're hoping for and have saved for and everything else. So
agreed.
Mother of God, we've hit 2 hours and 15 minutes. I was worried this fucker wasn't going to make it an hour.
That happens with me. I'm long-winded. I'm really long-winded. It's my cross to bear. I don't mean for it to be that way.
No, I mean,
I've really enjoyed the conversation, man. I really have. I'm glad we got a chance to do this. Like I said, it seems like we've been one layer off of each other for a long time, and I was so excited to see your shift into Born Primitive. I'm obviously such a big fan of them and Bear and Kurt and that whole team, and even got to spend some time, like say, in Normandy with Bear and the Best Defense Foundation last year, and just knowing his backstory and how much he cares and all of that, and with my own veteran background, it was just like, man, this is everywhere right where I want to be, and obviously I think it was a really great decision on their part to bring somebody like yourself into the fold that had such a strong hunting background. And as soon as it happened, I was like, I'm going to get to talk to Aron, which it really has been great.
Cool. Yeah, no, I know. I feel the same way, and I need to start using you guys because I'm a horrible adult, and quite honestly, like this year's a good example. I'm not hunting as much as I should be. So, the service that you guys provide is very, very important. And on that note, where can everybody get a hold of you before I forget? What's the website and everything else?
Sure. Yep. So, real simple, just thedraw.com is kind of ground zero for us. If they're into social media, Instagram is at We Are The Draw. Facebook is more The Draw. That's really the two most active that we're on. Or they can just simply give us a call. The number's relatively easy. It's 575-222-1234. And either myself or Jared or Casey or Lawrence or any of those guys are able to, they're just like me all day, every day, helping navigate those long phone calls that it takes to dig through all the different stuff that is important too before we start deciding to spend money on stuff. Like let's build a real plan so that all parties know what we're trying to accomplish and how we're actually going to do it.
And I want to stress this because I was the guy that did not build a plan early. What will happen is 20 years of your life is going to go by and you've had some fun, you've had some success, but it's not nearly what it could have been if you don't choose, unless you're just one of those guys that dorks out on 40 different states and whatever, use like the Draw's services, because you will be far ahead on your hunting, I don't want to say career, but your hunting experience, because they know more than you, I promise, unless you're the one in a million geeky dudes, and I know a few of them, right? But unless you're the one dude that fucking loves algebra and quantum physics, right? It's not for you. Let them do it. They're better at it. I mean, you don't go put in your own shower door without having done it before, right? And you watch it on YouTube and try to do it, you're still going to fuck it up. The Draw system is the same way. So use their services because you will have a far better experience long term, and start as early as you can afford it. I promise you won't regret it, because I'm a guy that is. Like, I'm regretting not doing it. So.